Hey, I've been getting a lot of questions about ZMX and how I've used it to replace Tmux in my development workflow, both locally, like on my local machine, and also remotely on my dev server. So I thought it'd be probably easier to demonstrate how I use ZMX with a demo. Before I show a demo of ZMX, I want to just briefly talk about its features and what the tool does for a developer. We're going to start with the example of Tmux. Tmux has two main features. It has attach detach functionality that allows you to persist your session across SSH disconnects, closing your laptop lid, whatever. You're basically able to pick up exactly where you left off with all your windows arranged in a particular way and all your terminal sessions still active and scripts running and all that. Then it also has the window management side of things where you can create splits like vertical splits, horizontal splits. You can create tabs with all your terminals like kind of set up and arranged how you want them for development. ZMX only deals with the attach detach functionality because we delegate window management to our operating system's window manager. I don't know about anyone else, but like when I was a heavy Tmux user, I was catching myself feeling ridiculous because I had this really nice window manager. I'm using Sway. I had Sway running, but all I would do is boot up one single terminal and then call Tmux. And then Tmux was my window manager. And like the key bindings for Tmux are really annoying. The control B prefix, it's constant. I ran into a bunch of issues where selecting across terminal panes would happen every once in a while. And I just found myself asking like, why do I have a window manager if I'm just using Tmux? And that sort of started down this like thread of getting rid of the window management part of Tmux and just focusing on the session persistence aspect of this tool. And that's ZMX. I'm not the first one that came up with this idea. There are a bunch of other tools that do the same thing. The predominant difference between those tools and the tool that I created is the tech stack and some of the architectural decisions that I made, which I can talk about in a different video. So the question you might be asking is like, if those tools already exist, why did I decide to build my own? The tools that exist were missing features. Either they didn't, like when you reattach, it didn't restore your terminal state and your scrollback history. Or if it did do that, it didn't fully restore your terminal state. And there were all these weird glitches and bugs revolving around not restoring your terminal history and state properly. And I had read a blog post by Mitchell that, the libghosty is coming blog article where he talked about basically Ghosty at the core is a library that can handle all the VT rendering and parsing for you and preserve the terminal state. And I thought this would be a great use case to leverage libghosty. And I really wanted to build a project in Zig. ZMX is my first really big Zig project, and it was a way for me to get involved in that ecosystem. And yeah, that's why. Basically, in the bottom, you can see all my different workspaces that I have active. People have their own preferences, but like for workspace 1 is usually my browser. Workspace 2 is like my chat. So my IRC is running inside of ZMX. And you can see, here's the tool. So here you can see all of my ZMX sessions that I have active. And chat is my IRC. So this is my IRC. I keep it persisted. That's in one workspace. And then I go to my third workspace, which runs a whole separate project. So I have all my terminal sessions active. You can see here there's a prefix D pico 2, D pico 3. I basically just increment. The way I namespace ZMX sessions is I do D dot the project dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's sort of how I organize it. You can organize it in different ways. Like you could have d.pico.editor and d.pico.terminal and d.pico.server if that's easier for you. The names are totally up to the user, so you can do it however you want. I just find it easier to just name it a bunch of numbers and get on with my life. So here, like, so as you can see, I'm like toggling between these different arrangements. The shortcuts are much easier to remember in a window manager because they have access they have more available shortcuts instead of the sort of Control B prefix that you're limited to in Tmux. So here's a project, and then I have another project. Again, like you can sort of see, my workflow is the project name and then an auto incrementing number. And I just create as many workspaces as I want inside of my operating system window manager. And then I connect to all my ZMX sessions. And you can see if I run ZMX here, you can see the active ZMX session for that terminal. And if I wanted to create a new one, another one that's really common for me is I will have like my dot files up. And, I'll just have my dot files up in a completely separate session as well. That way, like whenever I need to make like dot file changes, it's very easy for me to sort of get into it. So basically, like the way I have everything set up is my operating system has workspaces or desktops or however you want to think about them. I spawn one for each project, and then I ZMX attach to all the terminals that are related to that project. In Tmux, a Tmux session has a bunch of terminal sessions active at once, and they're all grouped together. In the ZMX way, you're creating a new session for every single terminal. And so, like, if I have a project that has 3 terminals, I have to create 3 separate ZMX sessions. Now, that might sound really tedious, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. But the really nice thing about it is because you have to be intentional about naming your sessions, listing your sessions out is like very readable, and you kind of get a good idea of like what is what. And with my auto incrementing idea, I tend to like have .1 be my terminal. So like I always know that the .1 suffix is my terminal emulator. And the .2 is usually like my dev server, and .3 is just a blank terminal in that workspace that I can use. And yeah, I just create a bunch of projects. I have a bunch of projects that I work on, and I'm constantly creating new sessions. And I just restarted my computer, so it's limited to the ones I spawned for this example. But normally I have something like 20 ZMX sessions running at the same time.